Minutes left after question period. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député des Pays.
The honourable member for Les Pays d'en Haut. Mr. Speaker, on September 12th,
empty in
a
here
major
today.
fire destroyed the elementary school at Val-des-Monts in Prévost. It was a terrible shock for the children, their families, and the community. Despite the quick response of the fire services, the school is a total loss. But, Mr. Speaker, Prévost is a very tight community and took action quickly. The children were relocalized in 4 local schools and were back to school on September 18th. So they only lost about 3 days of school. This is the result of a remarkable mobilization. I'd like to thank the teachers, the principals of the Val-des-Monts School, and the Mayor, Paul Germain, who organized a campaign that raised $140,000 for the students. Also thanks to Sonia Bélanger, Minister of Housing and Minister for the Laurentians. Mr. Speaker, when everyone works together for the good of children, anything is possible.
Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Mayor of Grand Forks announced that the Interfor mill is closing indefinitely because of unjustified U.S. tariffs. To the people of Grand Forks and Boundary, this is devastating. The mill is an important employer. 150 jobs are lost in one small town. To the families affected by the mill, I will continue to call on this Liberal government to get a softwood lumber deal, one that is fair to our workers and our communities like Grand Forks. Current programs and 10 years of Liberal pledges are not putting roof over families' head, putting food on tables, creating jobs like those that have been available at the Interfor mill for generations. Grand Forks and its residents deserve more. Grand Forks families want their jobs back. To the families of Grand Forks, my office is available to support you in any way I can.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, this Friday marks the World Mental Health Day. Mental health is health. 1 in 5 Canadians experience mental health each year in their daily lives. From youth to seniors, mental health impacts every generation. In Brampton South, community organizations like the South Asian Canadian Health and Social Services, Root Community Services, CMHA, Peel Dufferin, KMH, and many others are providing vital care and support. Mr. Speaker, our government has partnered with these organizations to strengthen support for mental health and substance use. Canadians can get access to the care they need in our Youth Mental Health Fund and expanded Wellness Together Canada portal. I want to thank all the dedicated mental health workers across Canada for their compassion and commitment to helping others. Mr. Speaker, to anyone struggling, I would say you are not alone. Please reach out and seek the support.
The honourable member for Edmonton South East.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in the House to recognize an organization that has greatly benefited the Millwoods community in my riding of Edmonton Southeast. The Millwoods Cultural and Recreational Facility Association has raised money for and operates community leagues, Millwoods Golf Course, Jackie Park, Sensory Playground for autistic children, and much more. Over the past 50 years of operation, this organization has contributed over $10 million to the community. The work done by the staff, board, and volunteers of this organization greatly benefit the city of Edmonton by bringing people together and providing them with fun recreational activities. To the board and all members of Millwoods Culture and Recreational Facility Association, thank you for all your hard work.
The honourable member for Sackville, Bedford Preston.
Mr. Speaker, earlier today I've come from a meeting with Children's Healthcare Canada and the Pediatric Chairs of Canada, whose members have flown to Ottawa from across the country to meet with parliamentarians. They are focused on ensuring Canada's children have access to care that is timely, equitable, and designed with the unique needs of young people in mind. We know that Canada's pediatric health system is facing mounting pressures as our population grows and children's needs become more complex. Strategic investment and collaboration will be crucial to make certain every child receives the care they deserve. Mr. Speaker, children's health care is an investment in our future. As a parent of young children myself, I know that healthier kids are happier kids, and healthier kids make happier and healthier parents too. I invite all members to join me in supporting the vision of a Canada where every child, no matter where they live, can grow up healthy, supported, and able to reach their full potential. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Niagara West.
Mr. Speaker, these Liberals have unleashed a crime wave in Niagara like we've never seen before. It's gotten so bad that the Niagara Regional Police is reminding people to do a nighttime routine. They call it the 9 p.m. routine. Allow me to read their post. It's 9 p.m. Niagara. Have you completed your hashtag 9 p.m. routine? Ensure that all your valuables are secure. Cars, doors, and windows are locked, and alarms are activated if you have them. This follows on the heels of Toronto and York Police telling you to leave your keys by the front door and lock yourself in the closet while criminals steal from your home. The only thing they didn't say is leave a full tank of gas and cookies at the door. This is happening as the Liberals keep telling Canadians, you've never had it so good. Let's remind folks of the Liberal record. Liberal Bill C-5 eliminated mandatory minimum sentences for serious violent crimes. Bill C-75 requires judges to release accused offenders at the earliest possible opportunity under the least onerous conditions. Canadians live in fear as criminals roam the streets, knowing that they can do whatever they want to whomever they want and still be out on bail before the ink on their paperwork is even dry.
Honourable member for Charlottetown.
Speaker, Mahatma Gandhi once said a nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. As parliamentarians, we have an opportunity and an obligation to take bold action to address income inequality in Canada. Day after day, we squabble in this place over who's at fault for the state of healthcare, food insecurity, criminality, and low productivity. But at the root of all these challenges is one common denominator: poverty. In Prince Edward Island, the legislature unanimously passed a resolution calling for a province-wide basic income guarantee demonstration project. Coalition Canada convened a working group to design a feasible and progressive program and published a comprehensive report on how it could work. Today, advocates for this proposal are here in Ottawa. I want to thank them for their tireless dedication to ending poverty. I also thank the members from all parties who have met with them to learn more about this initiative, one that has the potential to become a true nation-building project for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for York Centre.
We will remember the babies sliced, the women raped, and the fathers beheaded. 2 years since October 7th. We kept saying never again, but it happened again. I don't want the Liberals doing the Jewish community any favors. They're rewarded the worst possible act of terror with a terrorist state for votes. They're morally bankrupt. But it gets worse. Today at the University of Toronto, there's a celebration called Honoring Our Martyrs. Thugs hiding their faces in keffiyehs, glorifying murder. They're inciting violence, but nothing's going to happen. A Jewish school in my riding has been shot at 3 times. Great job, Liberals. Save your tweets. Start taking action against extremism brewing in Canada. That's right. You've been warned. May those who are still in the tunnels come back. And may the memory of those whose lives were lost be a blessing.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, on October 7th, Hamas attacked and killed 1,200 people with unheard of violence. They took 250 people hostage, 48 are still missing, and we don't know what happened to many of them. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to honor the member of the victims of October 7th, and I would like to stand in solidarity with all the Jewish community in Quebec. We condemn Hamas. It must be excluded from Gaza and Palestine. We hope that current negotiations will lead to lasting peace, which includes the freeing of all hostages and a 2-state solution, in addition to humanitarian aid to Gaza. But most of all, I call on all Quebecers of all confessions of all origin to have more empathy and respect to one another. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This October, as we mark Women's History Month, I rise to celebrate an extraordinary leader from Cape Sable Island, Gail Atkinson.
What the hell's going on with my output?
For more than 2 decades, Gail worked alongside her father, purchasing her own lobster license and vessel, the Nellie Rowe. She went on to become one of the very few women here in Canada to captain a lobster boat. In a field that has long been male-dominated, Gail chartered her own course, demonstrating skill and leadership, no gender. Today, she employs an almost all-female crew and remains deeply engaged in her industry, opening doors for women who aspire to have careers in our maritime trades. Gail's story is not only one of personal success, but of possibility for the young women and girls in our coastal communities who see their own future reflected in the water. Mr. Speaker, this Women's History Month, I'm proud to honor Gail Atkinson for breaking barriers, inspiring others, and strengthening.
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Instead of a midlife crisis, we now have a crisis of the young. That is what researchers across Canada are saying about the happiness of Canadians. After 10 years of this Liberal government, Canada has fallen to its lowest point in global happiness rankings, and no one feels that more than young Canadians. Once full of optimism and opportunity, our country has dropped to 58th in the world for life satisfaction amongst people under 30. That's what happens after years of Liberal mismanagement and prime ministers that chase photo ops and celebrity moments instead of solid policy at home. A housing crisis, record food prices, and taxes that punish hard work. Conservatives will turn this around. We will build homes, not bureaucracy. We will lower costs, put violent criminals behind bars, not out on bail, and reward hard work so young Canadians can once again believe their dreams are possible. Conservatives are here for the young people in this country, this generation and the next, to restore hope for a bright future in Canada, the true north, strong and free.
The Honourable Member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my diverse riding of Willowdale, I'd like to extend my warmest greetings to all those celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival, referred to by many as the Moon Festival, in Korea as Chuseok, in Japan as Tsukimi, and in Vietnam as Tret Tan To. It is considered one of the most cherished festivals by Asians around the world. It's a time for families and friends to gather and celebrate a good harvest while also enjoying delicious cuisine and one another's company under a full moon. To the many celebrating in Canada, may the glow of the full moon illuminate your path and bring you peace and prosperity throughout the year ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Well, while they claim to be fighting a trade war, the policies of the Liberal government are directly helping the Americans. Due to their job-killing policies like the West Coast tanker ban and the oil and gas cap and others, the Liberals have caused many Canadian companies to invest billions of dollars in the United States rather than here at home. Because, as the CEO of Enbridge said, no company would build a pipeline to nowhere. The Prime Minister told Canadians that he would unleash national projects and bring new revenue into Canada to help ease the pain of Canadians, but he has done the exact opposite. Like his predecessor, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister makes grand statements but takes no action. And action speaks much louder than words. Until he gets out of the way and removes his job-killing regulations, Canada will continue to fall further and further behind. So how can this Prime Minister say that he is fighting for Canadians when he's funding the U.S. President's war on Canadian workers?
The Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Alex Luke was a force of nature. He embodied love, generosity, and courage. He was Raquel and Alain's son and Kayla's brother. He had friends and family who loved him. He grew up in Montreal, but was also a man of the world who spoke 7 languages and ran an international business. He was the life of any room. Alex was also a proud Jew. On October 7, 2023, he was vacationing in Israel, attending a music festival, when dozens of armed Hamas terrorists attacked. He calmed people down and stood at the door of a shelter blocking the terrorists. He died a hero, saving the lives of others. He was one of 8 Canadians and 1,200 people murdered that day. 251 people were taken hostages, some of whom are still in tunnels under Gaza. On this anniversary, let's remember that this war was started by Hamas terrorists who have brought nothing but misery to Israelis and Palestinians. Let's pray for those murdered and their families, for the immediate release of the hostages, and for a future where Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace.
The honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
The prism, it refracts the light. 2 years ago, the world turned on itself. An epidemic of anti-Semitism against the Jews and their state. The greatest test of our generation, our way of life. A fight for civilization over our medieval rivals. Across millennia, Jews have faced down Haman and Antiochus. In the last century, Hitler and Hamas. And all through this, Canadian Jews taking their mezuzahs off the doors out of fear. Students hiding, mobs gathered outside classroom doors, as everything we know, everything we are, is torturously inverted. Where were you? Ben, Vivian, Judy, Adi, Alexandra, Netta, Shir, Tiferet. May their memories be a blessing. May we remember the source of both pain and joy is love. In this broken prism, I thank God for the Jewish world that is the light.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, as President of the Canadian section of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Francophonie, I had the privilege of awarding the Order of the Pléiade to 5 extraordinary Canadians during the ceremony held on September 23rd. These leaders in the French-speaking world were awarded for their dedication and commitment to the promotion of the French language in the areas of arts, entrepreneurship, community, and politics. Ms. Edith Butler was promoted to Commander of the Order of the Pléiade, and Mr. René Arsenault, Carl Blackburn, André Gagnon, and Ms. Agnès Mbome received the Medal of the grade of Chevalier. I would like to thank all my parliamentary colleagues who joined me at this ceremony. To the recipients, congratulations, and thank you for everything you have done, and please continue supporting the French language in Canada. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister promised that he was going to negotiate a victory with the United States before July 21st, 2025. And still, no deal, no victory, and the U.S. tariffs have doubled. Today, the Prime Minister made his biggest concession by promising to export another $1 billion to the United States. That means lower salaries, fewer jobs for Canadian workers. So why, when the Prime Minister has lunch at the White House, why is it always the Canadian workers who suffer? The Honourable Leader of the Government. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and many of his colleagues are obviously at the White House today in order to further the interests of Canadians. And I know that the entire country is hoping that our Prime Minister will continue to move this forward, to continue to build Canada, create jobs, and I hope that the Leader of the Opposition supports him on this. The Prime Minister promised victory, but there is no victory. He promised a deal, there is no deal, and now he's promising $1 billion of Canadian investments in the United States with nothing in exchange. Now, what that means is mines that are closing in Quebec that are going to open in Pennsylvania. It means mills that are going to close in BC and open up in the state of Washington. It means plants in Ontario that are going to shut down and then open in Michigan. So why did the Prime Minister sell off Canadian workers during his visit to Washington, the Honourable Leader of the government? Mr. Speaker, that is completely absurd. The Prime Minister obviously is there to promote Canadian interests, and those include our trade interests, obviously, and secondly, Canadians are proud that big investors in the United States have brought profits back to Canada, to our workers, to people who collect pensions in Canada. So I'm not sure what the opposition leader is referring to, but it seems that he doesn't want the Prime Minister to chalk up a victory today, and that's regrettable.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians to, and I quote, negotiate a victory. He promised have a deal by July 21st, 2025. Still no deal, still no victory. And American tariffs have actually doubled. But today, the Prime Minister made his biggest concession of all. He promised to push $1 trillion of investment out of Canada into the United States of America, which will drive down Canadian wages and Canadian jobs. Why is it when the Prime Minister goes for lunch at the White House, it's Canadian workers on the menu?
That's right. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and his colleagues are at the White House today, advancing Canada's interests, advancing Canada's trade interests, advancing our interests in foreign policy generally. And I know that the hopes of all Canadians accompany our Prime Minister to those meetings where he will very, very clearly defend the rights of Canadian workers and of the Canadian economy. I sure hope the Leader of the Opposition is among those Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister casually said, and I quote, $500 billion in the last 5 years alone of Canadian investment has left to the U.S. And he said probably $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. In other words, he made a massive $1 trillion concession before the deal was even signed and without getting anything in return. $1 trillion of exit investment means closing mines and factories in Canada and opening them in the U.S. Why did the Prime Minister sell out our workers on his visit to Washington?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, we do not need Donald Trump's permission to open mines and roads and infrastructure in Canada. That's exactly what we're going to be doing, is building Canada with Canadian labor, Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and Canadian lumber. If he's referring to the Maple 8, the pension funds that Canadians are so proud of and invest in, who invest all over the world and take their profits back to Canada to pay Canadian pensions, well, I say bring that on too, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This government has already admitted that we have a problem with Canadian pension money leaving Canada to create jobs in other countries. They even created a Brookfield-run program to bring it back. But today, the Prime Minister promised the President that Canadian government policies would drive $1 trillion out of our economy into the American economy over the next 5 years. That is twice as bad as has happened in the last half-decade. This means lost jobs and lower wages for Canadians who already can't pay their bills. Again, why did the Prime Minister sell out Canadian workers in his visit to Washington?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
You know what Canadians feel when they see the Prime Minister and ministers in the Oval Office defending Canada? Mr. Speaker, they feel pride. They feel pride that this Prime Minister is standing up for our country, standing up for our workers, standing up for our steel industry, and these crazy hair-eyed schemes that the Leader of the Opposition comes up with just to get in the news cycle are quite frankly a little embarrassing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, all the hyperventilating in the world will not change the fact that the Prime Minister casually said in the Oval Office today He bragged that $500 billion Canadian investment dollars have left for the states in the last 5 years, and then promised that $1 trillion more will leave in the next 5 years. That'll mean mines closing in Quebec and opening in Pennsylvania. It'll mean mills closing in BC and opening in Washington State, factories closing in Ontario and going to Michigan. Why is it that the Prime Minister sells out Canadian workers, Canadian jobs, and Canadian investments in the White House?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have said all along that Canada will look after its own people with our own projects, our own labor, our own material. We'll be opening mines, we'll be opening ports, we'll be opening railways, we'll be opening our Arctic. We are going to continue to build this country and get a fair, good trade deal for Canada, and it'll be thanks to this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's meeting with Donald Trump was supposed to be about tariffs, and it was supposed to be about getting rid of tariffs, not adding more. Currently, the Prime Minister hasn't gotten anything in Washington. Well, he's actually suffered 2 failures over the last week. New softwood lumber tariffs and tariffs on trucking, which are hurting Paccard in Sainte-Thérèse. No wins and 2 more failures for the Quebec economy. The Prime Minister claimed to be an amazing negotiator. Where are those skills today? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, what Canadians are seeing today is a Prime Minister who is standing up for our industries, like our softwood lumber, steel, aluminum, and manufacturing industries, including heavy trucking. Our Prime Minister is working with very complex trade agreements. We already have the best trade system with the U.S. in the world. The Prime Minister is trying to further improve things, and I hope that this member and all of this Parliament are wishing him all success. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, it's not clear that anything has been gained when it comes to tariffs. On the contrary. In fact, the press conferences with the Prime Minister and Donald Trump discussed obsessions of Donald Trump's, like his National Guard deployments in Chicago, much more than the economy. Meanwhile, tariffs are going up and going down. And industries like forestry and truck manufacturing are worried about the future. Does this Prime Minister really think that he's getting a passing grade? The Honourable Government House Leader. We understand, Mr. Speaker, that workers are concerned. That is why we have announced significant measures to support our workers in key sectors, the ones my colleague mentioned. But the Bloc Québécois actually seems happy about this unfortunate situation, whereas we are facing the trade problems that are being inflicted by the U.S. on the entire world. We already have the best possible trade system or trade setup, and we will continue to improve it to support our sectors and workers. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, all parties voted to protect supply management and trade agreements, but the Liberals seemed to be ready to go back on their word. The medias have revealed that the Liberals are talking to the U.S. about new concessions in American milk import quotas. And what makes that even worse is that Donald Trump has just said that a trade agreement with Canada would include dairy. We need to protect the entirety of the supply management system, not just keeping it nominally in place while continuing to weaken it. So will the government keep its word and refuse to make any concessions? The Honourable Government House Leader. As we've said before, Mr. Speaker, we voted in favor of legislation that prevents the government from negotiating supply management. Supply management is not on the table. And trying to scare people will not change that, Mr. Speaker. Supply management is not on the table.
Member for Thornhill.
this is the news coming out of the White House today for many Canadians. Canadians put their faith in the Prime Minister because they believed that he'd fight for them, for their jobs, for their paychecks, and for their families. But they were false promises, because months after he promised a deal, we still have no deal. Instead, we have the fastest shrinking G7 economy. We have 86,000 more people out of work, and now $1 trillion flowing out of Canada with tariffs that are higher, not lower. So does the Prime Minister realize that his broken promises have real consequences for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly why we're working to protect jobs, to create jobs, and to keep and attract the best talent here in Canada. And we've got a number of responses. We've got the Strategic Response Fund that is working across sectors. We're building major projects with Canadian Steel, Canadian Lumber, our Build Canada Homes project, which is bringing tens of thousands of homes across Canada using Canadian products, Canadian workers, Canadian union labour. We'll always be there for our workers and our businesses. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
None of that is working because there's 86,000 Canadians out of a job today, and they must know that this isn't about politics. It's about people. People who believed that this Prime Minister said he would stand up for them. He danced around with his elbows in the sky. He promised every Canadian that he would fight. This is about workers who have seen their shifts cut, their costs rise, and their hope fade, all because there's $1 trillion going southbound instead of being invested here in Canada. All they wanted for him was to keep his word. Why won't he?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Monsieur le Président, je vous rappelle.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, this trade war was started by the U.S. They are the ones who started it. And how are we reacting? We are reacting by helping our businesses. 2 weeks ago, I had announced 500 jobs in Varennes. Then I announced 300 jobs in Sorel.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Today's the big day. The Prime Minister is in Washington begging with his elbows down, chasing $1 trillion of Canadian investment jobs to the U.S. He promised to sign a deal by July 21st. It's October. Instead, he caved to the President's demands on counter-tariffs and digital service taxes. Now, Canadian workers, businesses, manufacturers, and farmers all got hit with double U.S. tariffs. And the Prime Minister probably got stuck with the lunch bill, too. Will he stop begging and negotiate an actual win for Canada against U.S. tariffs?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were under no illusion that this was going to be easy, but they chose a Prime Minister. Who
I couldn't hear. Sorry, colleagues. Sorry. My apologies. I couldn't hear. The Honourable Minister of Jobs. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were under no illusion that this would be easy. But what they wanted was a leader that would be truthful with them, that would stand up for them, that would make sure that that the government that they selected would have their backs in difficult times. And that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, whether it's investing in our steel industry, whether it's supporting skilled trades, whether it's building major projects. This government has the back of Canadian workers, something I don't think that they can say about the opposite party.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Yeah, Canadians were promised one thing, but the bait and switch left them with a leader that's elbows and knees down now. And the Liberals can't get their story straight on the economy. First, they blamed Trump's tariffs on having the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. Now they claim they got the best deal on tariffs with the U.S. It doesn't add up. And since the Prime Minister took office, he's doubled the deficit, chased $52 billion of investment into the U.S., and now another $1 trillion, and 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs. Why? Is it because the Prime Minister's failed trade diplomacy, his failed economic policy, or both?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, when Canadians compared leaders, they had a choice between a world-class leader, world-class economic and business experience, versus a leader with none. On November 4th, we're going to table a disciplined budget that is going to create jobs. You want to talk about job creation, Mr. Speaker? The only job the leader opposite has ever created was the one he left open for the member for Carleton in the last election. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tiendinaga.
This Prime Minister is a man of sharp contrasts. He vowed to deliver the strongest G7 economy. We have the weakest. He promised thousands of new jobs. 86,000 Canadians have lost theirs. He said he would negotiate a win with the United States. Instead, weak negotiations dressed up as a victory. Mr. Speaker, they talk a big game about having the best deal. It's quite the contrary. Is this failure the result of economic mismanagement, his diplomatic incompetence, or both?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, about incompetence for a member opposite to not understand why CUSMA gives us the best deal in the world is sheer incompetence in Canadian politics. But what I will say, Mr. Speaker, is that this government is solely focused on the success of Canadians, whether it's investing in the kinds of projects that will create great jobs, making sure people have the skills to be able to take those jobs, and supporting Canadians in good times and in bad. Canadians know that this Liberal government has their back, and they're really not very sure about those guys.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Aguirre-Ronrac. Mr. Speaker, it's the moment of truth for the Prime Minister. He's at the White House to try to fulfill his key promise in the election campaign, getting a great agreement for Canada. Let's recall, he promised the end of tariffs on the auto sector, softwood lumber, energy, aluminum, steel. It was all supposed to be over by July 21st, but that didn't work. And since then, we've seen concession after concession after concession. Canadians deserve better. Can the government explain to us why the Prime Minister has never delivered the goods? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we are facing an extremely complex situation. And the best thing to do is not to rush into a bad deal. We will not rush into a terrible deal with the unpredictable president. But currently, we already have an excellent trade agreement with the U.S. 85% of our exports enter the U.S. without tariffs, without taxes, and we are going to negotiate the best deal in the interest of all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Aguirre-Ronrac. Mr. Speaker, when my colleague was at the provincial level, he balanced the budget. I respected that. But since he's been here with his Prime Minister, the debt has doubled. That's the result of this administration. Yes, we want a good deal. But 6 months ago, when he was elected, the Prime Minister was saying there would be a great deal by July 21st. But 6 months later, there's nothing, only concession after concession. What can Canadians expect from a government that only knows how to make concessions? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, what Canadians can expect is a government that will negotiate the best possible deal for all Canadians from all parts of the country and all sectors. Currently, 85% of our exports reach the U.S. without being tariffed. We are not going to rush into a bad deal. We're going to get the best deal at the right time. The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kawa-Chikamash-Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, postal workers are saying the following. The federal government's repeated interventions into our negotiations have completely ruined them. Each time the government interfered, it only made it harder to negotiate a new collective agreement. Each time the government has taken action, it's actually made the parties further apart. Mr. Speaker, Ottawa caused this conflict. Ottawa is responsible for the lack of postal services. Does the minister understand the harm that he has caused by dismantling this public service? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. I can't believe what I'm hearing, Mr. Speaker. We are not dismantling a public service. We are saving it. There has been a deficit in this service, and currently Canada Post is losing $10 million a day. This labor conflict has been going on for 20 months. The responsible thing to do is to transform Canada Post and be able to bring back this vital service and make it viable once again. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, the Minister loves telling us that the strike at Canada Post goes back to last year, or that there was a strike last year as well, and he keeps telling us that the government is losing $10 million a day. But what he's forgetting is that during last year's strike, small businesses criticized the government sharply, reminding it that the strike was causing losses of $100 million a day. Does the Minister understand that by paralyzing our postal services, he is harming our small businesses, our regions, and the most vulnerable Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I know that all parties involved care deeply about the financial viability of Canada Post. The Bloc Québécois doesn't seem to care about that at all. On the contrary, they seem to think that it's okay if Canada Post loses $10 million a day. We don't think that's all right. What we're asking the union, what we're asking management, is to come to an agreement to ensure that an institution which is so important for the country finally finds a way to be financially sustainable. It's not acceptable for it to lose so much money, taxpayers' money.
For Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The Prime Minister promised a good deal for Canadians by July, but we've seen 86,000 Canadian workers lose their jobs. That includes 100 families in Maitland as Invista sent their jobs down to the U.S. It includes 35 families in Brockville as steel tariffs they crush the operations at Douglas Barwick with more jobs on the line. Canadians can't feed their families on the empty promises that they're hearing across the way today or hear from the Prime Minister. So when will he deliver that good deal for Canadians that he promised by July?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I find it slightly ironic that the Conservatives are lecturing us about protecting jobs. While the opposition leader fought all summer to protect his jobs, we were standing up to protect Canadian jobs. We've offered workforce reskilling for 50,000 workers. A strategic response fund of $5 billion will provide flexible financing to help firms adapt to tariffs. We've launched and moved forward on a Buy Canadian policy, liquidity relief, regional tariff response initiative, and a remissions framework. All of these things demonstrate to Canadians, and they will know, and they know who is going to stand up for their jobs.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, on behalf of the 86,000 Canadians who lost their jobs, how's that going for you? Because I want to know, as Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7, with $52 billion of net investment fleeing Canada, we want to know, Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, what is their plan? Canadians can't feed their families with these empty promises. This Prime Minister promised that deal. Instead, he's down in Washington gushing over Donald Trump as investment flees our country at a record pace. What are they doing for Canadians who are out of work?
The Honourable Member, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
The famous words of Helen Keller, pathetic is the man who has sight but no vision. I would suggest to Canadians that the Conservative Party has no vision for the future of Canada's economy. This party got elected on a mandate to build Canada strong, to protect Canadian jobs. That's exactly what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a grand security and economic deal with the Americans, and then has gone on to make concession after concession with little to show for it. He cancelled the DST, he cancelled reciprocal tariffs, he withdrew complaints on softwood lumber. Now he's gushing over the President of the U.S., calling him a transformative leader once again, and what does Canada have to show for it? When will this Prime Minister keep his promise to Canadians and deliver a deal to secure a deal with the Americans?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader was busy this summer trying to get back the only job he ever had, we crisscrossed the country listening to Canadians. We got feedback from Canadians. On November 4th, Mr. Speaker, we are going to table a disciplined budget that is going to spend less, invest more, create thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs. This is what a government looks like that's going to build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, a disciplined budget. The deficit has doubled. Almost 100,000 Canadians are now out of work. They still don't have a deal with the American auto plants are mothballed. Manufacturing is slowing. $54 billion of investments have left this country. Tariffs are higher today than when this Prime Minister took office. So when will he actually deliver on his promise to secure a deal with the Americans?
Absolutely. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial
Mr. Speaker, as we go door to door on this side, what we're hearing back from Canadians is crystal clear. Canadians they compared between a leader with world-class experience versus a leader that's never had a job outside the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, we stand with our Prime Minister. Canadians stand with our Prime Minister. We are going to build the strongest, most resilient economy in the G7, an economy that Canadians can be proud of. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to resolve the U.S. tariffs before July 21st. Today, not only has he failed to deliver, but the situation is getting worse. On October 14th, Canadian lumber will be hit with another tariff increase, this time to 45%. Mr. Speaker, in Beauce and across the country, our market is suffocating. Our businesses are suffering while this government stands idly by. Mr. Speaker, even the Prime Minister said we'd have a big win. But can he finally keep his promise with respect to all of the U.S. tariffs? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind everyone in this House that 85% of Canadian exports to the U.S. do not have any tariffs in the U.S. or taxes. For the other products that are affected by specific tariffs, we are working hard and we are providing them support in this transition. We are always here to support companies, particularly in the regions, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, residents in my riding of Oakville West want to see projects in this country built faster. The Prime Minister has made it clear we have to build homes, build energy infrastructure, build up defense capacity, and build Canada's economy so that the strongest in the G7. And we are doing it fast. Starting on November 4th, the Government of Canada will present its budget in the fall instead of in spring. Can the Secretary of State for the CRA and the financial institutions please inform the House about what that means for construction season and building things in Canada? Thank you.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you for the question. The party opposite and their leader might have actually missed it because they were busy trying to get him re-elected. But our global economy has fundamentally changed. Canada needs to respond. That's why we're moving with a disciplined budget this fall to give provinces, municipalities, cities, businesses time for nation-building projects so they can get ready for construction in the spring. Even the Parliamentary Budget Office agrees with this move. It's time for the leadership, the Conservative leader, to get on board, stop the rhetoric, help build Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister bragged that he could handle President Trump. He promised to negotiate a win. He said he would have a deal done by July 21st. Well, it's October, and not only is there no win, but the Prime Minister keeps losing. Despite giving concession after concession to the Americans, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled since he took office. His failure to do what he said he would do has already cost hundreds of forestry jobs and put thousands more at risk in BC alone. Why has the Prime Minister abandoned our softwood lumber workers and broken his promise to get a deal done?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, we will always stand with communities and workers in softwood lumber industry and across the forestry sector more broadly. We've made significant investments, including $700 million in loan supports, $500 million to diversify the sector to ensure there's jobs not just today, but in the future. And we are entirely seized with this issue, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised a deal with the Americans by July 21st. Still no deal. In fact, softwood tariffs have doubled. A decade of Liberal failure has lost thousands of lumber jobs. Yesterday, the Mayor of Grand Forks announced an indefinite closure of the Interfor Mill because of these tariffs. 150 jobs lost in a small town. On behalf of these workers, why have these jobs been denied by the Prime Minister? Why has he failed to get a deal?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we stand with the workers in rural communities. Forestry is the heartbeat of Canadian rural life. It provides the roads, it provides the jobs, it provides the community spirit, and we are there with investments to protect workers who have lost their jobs, as well as investments going forward. The government is also looking to use more Canadian lumber in more Canadian products, which is part of our Build Canada strategy, and you can expect to hear more about that in the coming weeks, months, and years.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
The Prime Minister promised to, quote, negotiate a win for Canadians with President Trump. He promised a deal by July 21st, but still no deal. Now tariffs on lumber are set to increase from 35 to a whopping 45%. On Vancouver Island, we have several mills that have curtailed operations to year-end. They face closing entirely if we don't see change. That's thousands of lost forestry sector jobs. When will the Prime Minister finally realize mills will close, thousands of jobs on Vancouver Island will be lost without an end to U.S. tariffs on lumber?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we stand with the workers that are affected by these tariffs, which is why we are providing the supports that we're providing. We are working at every level to resolve this dispute with our American friends, and we are also making investments to support those communities as well as diversify markets going forward.
The Honourable Member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
The Prime Minister promised a deal with President Trump by July 21st, and yet still no deal. Lots of concessions on Canada's part, but still no deal. And what about lumber? Mills back home in places like Florenceville and Plastrock are contending with the challenges these tariffs bring. When the Prime Minister Harper faced this issue, he got it resolved in 80 days. After 10 years without a deal, does this Prime Minister realize that the longer he fails to get a deal on lumber, thousands of jobs back home in New Brunswick are at risk?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't feel very resolved. This is a long-standing challenge, but it's one this government is going to be working to resolve by making significant investments in the future of the forestry sector, as well as supporting the workers right now while we work towards a deal. Buying Canada and Canadian procurement is a significant part of this component, which is why it's so important that we support projects like Build Canada Homes. I hope the members opposite will do just that and get on board.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals continue to break their promises. The Prime Minister claimed he would make Canada an energy superpower, but refuses to put even one pipeline on his project list. He also told us he'd create jobs, but Canada has lost 86,000 jobs since he took over. That includes 1,000 people let go in the oil sector in Calgary this last week. So does the Prime Minister realize that his broken promises have real consequences for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I think that we should look at the comments from the Premier of Alberta. We should look at the comments from the Premier of Ontario. What we're seeing is a number of premiers, conservative premiers, very excited about our goals to make Canada an energy superpower, both conventional and renewable. In terms of the workers in Imperial, my heart goes out to them. The reality of the situation is it is always a bad idea to bet against Canadian workers and Canadian workforce, and we're going to be there for them to help them.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
This member should be ashamed for all the constituents who have lost jobs in his riding. The Liberals are building bureaucracies, not pipelines. TC Energy has a United States. Enbridge is building two pipelines there. Their CEO blames Canada's keep it in the ground policies. Well, he's right. Our deficit is doubled. We have the fastest shrinking G7 economy. $52 billion of investment has fled Canada. 86,000 people have lost their jobs. So does the Prime Minister realize that his keep it in the ground policies are keeping Canadians out of work?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, globally in the last 10 years, oil and gas production's increased 6%. In Canada, it's increased 34%. At the same time, we reduced our emissions by 15%. The policies that the member opposite references have allowed our product to be competitive on the global market and open up new markets. And this is how we make ourselves an energy superpower in the both conventional and renewable sense.
For Ponoka Didsbury.
The Prime Minister is breaking his promises to Canadians. He claimed that Canada would become an energy superpower, but refuses to put a pipeline on his list of nation-building projects. He promised the fastest-growing economy in the G7, yet he's delivered the fastest shrinking. He promised to create jobs, yet he's lost 86,000 jobs since becoming the Prime Minister. And to make matters worse, TC Energy is investing over $8 billion in an energy infrastructure project, not in Canada, but in the United States. President Trump has made it clear he wants to take jobs and investment away from Canada. So why is this Prime Minister so hell-bent on helping him?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
You would think this parade of members of Parliament from Alberta would know the basic facts. We've increased petroleum production over 30% while getting our emissions down, Mr. Speaker. We built a pipeline to the West Coast, increasing our oil exports, something he and Stephen Harper could never do. We are getting Canada's GDP up. We are creating opportunities in Canada's resource sector. MPs from Alberta should know the difference, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ponoka Didsbury.
Nothing could be further from the truth. The Liberals can't get their story straight on the economy. On one hand, they say that tariffs are hurting us. On the other hand, they claim that we have the best possible tariffs of anyone in the world. Both of these statements can be true, but that never stops a Liberal from saying them. Here are the facts since this Prime Minister took office. The deficit has doubled. Canada has the fastest shrinking G7 economy with the second highest unemployment. $54 billion of net investment has fled the country. And 86,000 people have lost their jobs. Energy workers can't afford to wait for empty promises to materialize. If the Prime Minister can't get the job done, why won't he get out of the way so Conservatives can get back to work and build this country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, in this crisis that we're in, it is so important to work hard to protect jobs, to create jobs, and to bring the talent that we need to this country.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary can take it from the top.
We were elected, Mr. Speaker, to protect jobs, to create jobs, and to foster the best job-creating situation in the G7, and that's exactly what we're doing.
That's right.
And we have to defend ourselves in the United States, but meanwhile, we're working hard with Build Canada Homes using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, with the most aggressive Buy Canadian procurement policy that this country's ever seen, with new protections for workers, with a strategic response fund. Mr. Speaker, we'll always be there for workers and businesses.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, another Alberta MP here watching $1 trillion going out of the country. The Prime Minister keeps breaking his promises. He said Canada would be an energy superpower, yet will not greenlight a single pipeline. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7, but now he got the fastest shrinking. He said he would create jobs, but 86,000 are gone. Enbridge is calling out the Liberal anti-energy policy and is building 2 new pipelines in the United States. Does the Prime Minister understand that his war on Canadian energy is sending good-paying jobs to the U.S.?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, once again, it falls on the lowly old MP for Gatineau, Quebec, to point out some Alberta truths to the Alberta members over there. We built a pipeline to Tidewater. We're increasing Canada's GDP. We're getting the world price to benefit the workers in the resource industry in Alberta. And if he doesn't believe it, you know what? I'll get him Danielle Smith's phone number and he can ask her.
The honourable member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, our two official languages are part of our Canadian identity. Can the minister tell us what measures our government is putting in place to support and strengthen French language education in minority communities? And so what is our government doing to support and improve French language education in minority settings? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his commitment to our official languages. Our government has already announced more than $732 million to support French language education across the country, from preschool to post-secondary education. This represents an investment of $43 million in Saskatchewan, $523 million in Ontario, and $133 million in New Brunswick. And another announcements are upcoming. Bilingualism is at the heart of our Canadian identity and a source of great pride for all of us. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi. Mr. Speaker, people in the aluminum sector in Saguenay are expecting results because everyone knows that the Prime Minister said that he would be the man to negotiate with the Americans. But since he's been elected, tariffs have doubled. Despite concession after concession, companies are still facing uncertainty and we're more vulnerable than ever. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and end all the tariffs? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we have been to Saguenay. We have spoken with the entrepreneurs there. The aluminum situation is concerning. We do have measures and programs for companies. In the meantime, I'd like to remind this House that 85% of Canadian exports do not have tariffs. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Lafitte. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that the deficit has doubled. $54 billion in investment has fled our country. Thousands of workers have lost their jobs. And we're far from the G7 country with the best company. On the contrary, with this government, we're not competitive. The Prime Minister promised he would remove all tariffs on everything. Why has he not kept his promises? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, people say it takes two to tango, and to take tariffs, we also have to be able to negotiate with our counterparts. And to date, this hasn't been necessarily possible. So we don't want to rush and just take anything. We want to obtain the best possible deal in the circumstances. Thank you.
Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to, quote, negotiate a win with President Trump and get a deal by July 21. 3 months later, there is still no deal. He promised elbows up, and then he caved on counter tariffs and more, getting nothing in return but higher U.S. tariffs. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7, and he delivered the fastest shrinking G7 economy with the second highest unemployment. For the 86,000 workers who have lost their jobs since he took office, time is up. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and negotiate an end to all U.S. tariffs today?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, after this entire question period, Canadians can be forgiven for thinking that it takes these Conservatives a little long to get out of their seat when it comes to defending this country.
That's right.
It looks a little too sneakily much like these Conservatives are happy to see a tough negotiation in the White House. Mr. Speaker, Canadians will not accept anything but standing foursquare behind our Prime Minister, this government, as we take Canada's hopes, Canada's dreams to Washington and get the best deal possible. That's what we'll be doing, and the Conservatives should not look like they're
The Honourable Member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Mr. Speaker, many years of underinvestment in affordable housing for both Indigenous people and Northerners has resulted in a serious gap in affordable housing for both of these groups. Can the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs tell this House how our new government is working with Indigenous leadership to close the infrastructure gap and how Build Canada Homes is turning that partnership into new homes for both Northerners and Indigenous people?
Excellent question.
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, through Build Canada Homes, our new government is working with Nunavut Housing Corporation to deliver hundreds of new homes, including factory-built units to build more faster. We're working with Indigenous partners so homes are safe, culturally appropriate, and not overcrowded. And we're supporting Nunavut's goal of 3,000 homes by 2030. We're also applying this Indigenous-led Northern-ready approach across the North, delivering homes and strengthening communities, because reconciliation means delivering results together.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Prime Minister keeps breaking promises to Canadians. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7, but delivered the fastest shrinking economy. He promised to create jobs, but Canada has lost 86,000 jobs. These failures have real consequences. Ontario has lost 38,000 manufacturing jobs because of the U.S. tariffs. In the London region, June's job losses pushed unemployment to 7.2%, second highest non-pandemic rates since 2016. Does the Prime Minister realize his broken promises are having dire effects on Canadians?
Well done. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll always be there to support the workers of London and the businesses of London across southwestern Ontario to protect jobs, to create jobs, and to keep and attract the best talent in the world. And maybe I'll just share some facts for the House in terms of the investment that is coming into Canada. Second largest FDI stock to GDP ratio among G20 countries in 2024, Mr. Speaker. Second highest out of 25 countries in the Kearney FDI Confidence Index, Mr. Speaker. That's investment that's coming into the country, and with our ministers and our trade diversification strategy, we expect more jobs, more businesses, more FDI to Canada.
Very good.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, on BC coast alone, there are 900 vessels, 90 of them over 500 tons at the end of their life, posing an imminent threat to our environment if they aren't recycled. Towing even one large BC ferry from Vancouver Island to Halifax to be recycled could cost millions. In Port Alberni, we're ready to build a ship repair and recycling centre of excellence in partnership with First Nations. Will the Minister commit to European Union-style regulations to protect workers, safeguard the environment, and secure this nation-building infrastructure?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working with my honourable colleague on this issue. We've had many interesting conversations, and we'll have, I'm sure, many more. We're protecting the environment, of course, Mr. Speaker. We're removing wrecked and abandoned vessels. For issues like shipbreaking, for example, we work closely with our provincial counterparts. We're going to be taking action to protect our waters and our coast, Mr. Speaker. And again, I look forward to working with my honourable friend on this issue.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been telling Canadians this government will spend less and invest more, while abandoning the Liberals' promise to make mental health a full and equal part of Canada's universal public health care system. It's estimated every dollar invested in mental health generates $2 of long-term savings, while untreated mental health issues cost our economy more than $50 billion every year. On Mental Illness Awareness Week, will this government acknowledge it's time to invest in the mental health of Canadians as a nation-building project?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Mental health is at the heart of this new government's concerns, and we'll do everything we can to support the mental health of Canadians. In fact, we do have a program for mental health in youth, and it gives a lot of support to young Canadians. Thank you.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Todd Gowdy, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly for the province of Saskatchewan. We'll give members some time to be where they need to be, and then we will continue with the day's business.
I wish to inform the House that the volume of the earpieces will now be reset.
Just another reminder, members, to leave quickly and quietly. We'll be moving on to...
Le reset n'a pas été lu.
Il a été fait.
Okay. We're going to call it here. I am going to take a break for a bit, but I'm going to get some clips out on the channel from committee this morning. If you missed that, it was very interesting on the longest ballot issue. We actually had the guy from the longest ballot committee in Parliament, and boy, was he very condescending and blood boiling. His overall attitude was horrible. Yeah, it was a Liberal MP who left, and now she was put in. Parliamentary stamp is 1228. Okay, I'm going to look at that as well. Steve, did they have the actual video, or was it just audio only? But yeah, sorry about the tech issues earlier. I'm not sure what happened. I'm going to have to look into that. That must have been some sort of YouTube thing, because as soon as I changed some of the upload, it went back to normal. So I think it was just YouTube servers getting overloaded or something like that. I was watching the Tamara and Barbara sentencing. Yeah, that was unfortunate. 18 months. I mean, in hindsight, they were supposed to get 10 years or whatever. That's what the prosecutor was pushing for. So it, there is some onus to that, I guess. There is video. Okay, I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna watch that actually. But we're gonna call it here. I've got some stuff I gotta take care of for a bit, but we will be live tomorrow. Question period, 2 p.m. And then also we've got committee after. Ethics committee, where we're talking about the Conflict of Interest Act and amendments to it. And Conservative MP Barrett's been pretty good in that committee, pushing for more transparency for public office holders. 1228 to 1233. Okay, I'm gonna check that out, Steve. Thanks for that. Appreciate that, man. Thanks everybody else for tuning in and watching. I really appreciate you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day and a good evening. And cheers. Bye, everyone.